Good morning. Rise in freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network. Let's get this show going. Who's ready to rock? Good morning, Andy. Good morning, Dad Bod Baboon. Good morning, Floby Tenderson. Good morning, Drew Van Runkle. Good morning even to Kivo Man, who just came in here just spitting acid at us this morning. Kivo, I think even you are going to have a good time here today and enjoy the Wake Up America show. I'm thankful that you're here with us live. We'll be glad to have you join us on the regs. That's Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. That's our show schedule, but the For Liberty Network's got two brand new shows coming this fall. October the 15th, we launch the For Liberty Network's Culturama, Tuesday night with Daniela Pensack, and then Thursday night, Daniela comes back and then does the handoff to the Liberty Tonight boys on the 17th of October. To the moon, baby! U.S. dockworkers go on strike. It could be the biggest strike in decades since the 1970s. U.S. dockworkers demanding worker protections and higher pay walk off the job this morning. What will this mean for prices and for supplies of important materials? Remember COVID-19? And Stephanie and I were saying the other day, we went to stock up on baby formula. We're like, yikes, glad we didn't have this baby during COVID-19. And then we would have had to figure out the baby formula thing. Like, a lot of mothers probably got really good at breastfeeding then, which, is good. But sometimes you need a little extra to plump them up. You know what I mean? All the fathers out there, can I get a shout out for all the dads who know what's up? Daddy. Starlink to North Carolina, the tragedy that is building on the American coast in North Carolina, Asheville. As many as 100 Americans may be dead at this moment, and more are being tallied. What is the U.S. government doing to try and alleviate the suffering of the citizens of North Carolina and elsewhere? Well, I'll tell you this, the non-U.S. government, the government in waiting, Donald Trump, is tag teaming up with Elon Musk to get Starlink out there. And I saw this morning, as soon as I saw that Donald Trump and Elon Musk were talking about getting Starlink to the people out there that are being affected by the tragedy of Hurricane Helene, I went and read the mainstream news articles, and they're all giving Joe Biden credit for that, which I'm just kind of like, there's no way. There's no way he's lucid enough. They wake him up from his nap on the beach. But maybe Kamala Harris, she's going to get all the credit for doing it, even though she's not the president of the United States.
I can first.
So we're going to talk about that this morning. We've got Remzo Martinez on the show today. It's going to be awesome. Our guests today are amazing. The topics are incredible. I wish sometimes this show was 3 hours because I want to be able to get to all of this stuff. And I've got three guests. I don't know what it is. Everybody just wants to be on the Wake Up America show these days. They're just calling me. No, I'm furiously texting each night. Please, God, come on my show. No, just people want to be on the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network. But it's you still got to work. You know what I mean? You better work, girl. And AP is always working, always moving, never stopping, never sleeping, building, working, never. So nothing ever happens in Blaine. No, waiting for Guffman reference. No, anybody remember? Nothing ever happens in Blaine. If you've never seen Waiting for Guffman, if you like Spinal Tap, or there's another movie that these guys did. They love those mockumentaries. What was it? Oh, Best in Show. If you have never seen Best in Show, the movie, and you've been looking for a good comedy for a while, that movie will make you scream with laughter. And then watch Best in Show first. Waiting for Guffman is good. I think maybe not as good as Best in Show, but anyways. At 7:30, we'll speak to Remzo Martinez. Speaking of dads out there, so Jen Psaki does this softball interview with Doug Emhoff. That's possibly the first husband coming up, right? Kamala Harris's husband. Doug Emhoff has reshaped the perception of masculinity after it was revealed he cheated on his first wife with the nanny. Oh, these are great people. MSNBC host Jen Psaki being mocked on social media for praising, they call him second gentleman. God, that's so gay. Doug Emhoff is someone who has reshaped the perception of masculinity. Despite the recent revelation, he impregnated his child's nanny during his first marriage. Doug, what are you doing? I don't understand. Okay, you can understand how everybody cheats, right? You have this moment and something happens, but for God's sakes, like, you won't use protection after all the lectures that we get from these people in public schools are like, teach sex education. They sure aren't practicing it. But anyways, the reason why I'm laughing at this Doug Emhoff article is not just because he's having kids out of wedlock, but because they're saying that he has what's called wife guy energy. Wife guy energy. Like, listen, I'm a girl dad, okay? And I'm not ashamed of being a girl dad. And I love my wife. And my smoking hot redheaded wife, Steffi, comes on here every Friday. I respect my wife. But wife guy energy. I mean, listen, I'm changing diapers. I'm feeding the baby. I'm getting her clothes on. I'm helping her with the bath. I'm doing the dad stuff. I'm being the girl dad. But wife guy energy? No offense.
No offense, but it sounds like some fucking commie gobbledygook.
These are the men that they want to take it over. At 8 o'clock, we're going to speak to Camellia Peterson, and it's going to get, well, I'll say rated R, but honestly, I think at 8 a.m., shit is going to be rated X here on the Wake Up America show. And I know you're going to be kind of like, some of you are going to be like, yay, that's nice. I love it. I'm a libertarian. I don't have problems with gay pornography. But some of you are going to be highly, highly offended by some of the topics and what we're going to be discussing. And there's not a lot of really good ways to put delicately the things that we're going to be talking about in the 8 o'clock hour. So I don't want anybody to tune out, but I want everybody to be informed, because I try not to say bad words. You know, we love Jesus, but we curse a little. It's just a situation where on the Wake Up America show, if there's going to be stuff that goes PG-13 or above, I try and warn you. And at 8 o'clock, it's just going to be R to X as FYI. And then at 8:30, it's not going to get any better, because we're going to be talking about hot girls for Donald Trump, yo. Newsweek wrote an article. This isn't just Austin being like, oh, I would love to talk about hot girls. Newsweek, how hot girls became the right's new obsession. What? Squeeze me? This is how the article starts. It all began with Sydney Sweeney's cleavage. Okay, well.
I can first.
How dare you?
Speaking of cleavage, it's funny because down on my Stream Deck, where I have like the little button that I push for the sound effects, the sound of this is a girl who's kind of like juggling her cleavage. So the Newsweek wrote the article. I just have to talk about it. And I want to talk to my 8:30 guests, not just about why right-wingers are obsessed with hot girls, or why Newsweek thinks we are, or why anybody should be surprised by that, or why it merited an entire Newsweek article and now trending on X. But we're going to talk about why Democrats are crossing over to vote for Donald Trump. Yes. Ay, por Dios. Latinas por Donald Trump. I'm Austin Peterson, and I approve this message. We love it. It's the Wake Up America show. We're going to have a fantastic show today with our friend Audrey Pope at 8:30 a.m. Central Time to talk about why Democrats are crossing over to the Republican Party to vote for Trump and how hot girls became the right's new obsession. Good God. So 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock, guys, just be aware. But so if you plan on leaving at during that hour for whatever reason, like you got kids in the house or something, then do us a favor. Make sure that you make a Rumble Rant donation to help us to unlock the bonus content so that you can see it in time before you leave at 8 a.m. Central Time. Now, don't leave if you don't have to, but just FYI, 8 o'clock is kind of like rated R. And let's see. Dock workers, port workers, the big news, Donald Trump, Hurricane Helene. Let's get there. Trump revealed he is personally coordinating with Elon Musk to get Starlink set up for Hurricane Helene victims who have lost communication. I know that there's no audio. I understand it's coming. There it is.
That's been displaced here in Georgia and North Carolina.
I'll take it down for you. Hold on.
Which has really been hit with homes, hospitals, highways, and cars have been plunged underwater. Entire neighborhoods have been turned into lakes. Nobody's seen anything like it. And to every family that's been displaced here in Georgia and North Carolina, which has really been hit. We were going there also, and They don't have communication. They don't have anything right now. We're trying to. I just spoke to Elon. I'm getting him. We want to get Starlink hooked up because they have no communication whatsoever. And Elon will always come through. We know that. And so we're working on that, getting them hooked up. They asked me whether or not that would be possible. And we're going to try and get the Starlink in there as soon as possible because they have no communication. And throughout the region, our hearts are with you, and we are going to be with you as long as you need. It's called an hour of need. You're in our prayers, and we pray to God. And throughout the long weeks that lay ahead, you're going to have a lot of work. But the end result is it's going to be good. We just wish so many people weren't so badly hurt, and in many cases, sadly, no longer with us. We love you.
Good stuff, Mr. President. And amazing, Mr. Musk. The White House is trying to take credit for all of this, of course. Biden's FEMA bent the knee to Elon Musk, and they're installing 30 Starlinks to help those affected by Hurricane Helene.
We're also very focused on restoring communications capabilities. FEMA, the FCC, and private telecommunications providers are working together to help restore temporary communications as quickly as possible by establishing temporary cell sites and allowing for roaming where possible, where a resident can connect to any network available even if they aren't subscribed to that network. Today, FEMA will install 30 Starlink receivers in western North Carolina to provide immediate connectivity for those in greatest need.
There you go. Interesting. What an incredible legacy that Elon Musk will be leaving behind. Think about all of the problems that he is solving. Starlink, and the fact the government hates him so much, and the Biden administration hates him so much, right? But they know that what the work he is doing with Starlink and with Neuralink and with many of these other companies that he's running, SpaceX, for example, how many times have they had to rely on him for the astronauts at the International Space Station? He's got to go run a shuttle to go pick them up because the U.S. government can't do it. And that is why we need less government. The government is best which governs least, because you can see how they govern. And I don't know how true it is to the rumors that these guys might have had access to more Starlinks if they hadn't given a grant to Elon Musk. I mean, I don't care. I don't want to. Don't give a grant to Elon Musk. If you got to buy things, just buy them. You know what I mean? That's grants. So that's taxpayer dollars. And while it sounds like they're going to a good use, quite frankly, if they didn't steal so much damn money from us in the first place, we'd all be on Starlink and we could buy it on our own homes. It's official. 45,000 port workers are now on strike from Maine to Texas. Here's what the head of the ILA had to say.
These people today don't know what a strike is. Right. When my men hit the streets from Maine to Texas, every single port will lock down. You know what's going to happen? I'll tell you. First week, be all over the news every night, boom, boom. Second week, guys who sell cars can't sell cars because the cars ain't coming in off the ships. They get laid off. Third week, malls start closing down. They can't get the goods from China. They can't sell clothes. They can't do this. Everything in the United States comes on a ship. They go out of business. Construction workers get laid off because the materials aren't coming in. The steel's not coming in. The lumber's not coming in. They lose their job. Everybody's hating the longshoremen now because now they realize how important our jobs are. Now I have the president screaming at me, I'm putting a Taft-Hartley on you. Go ahead. Taft-Hartley means I have to go back to work for 90 days. That's a cooling off period. Do you think when I go back for 90 days, those men are going to go to work on that pier? It's going to cost the company's money to pay their salaries. Well, they went from 30 moves an hour maybe to 8. They're going to be like this. Who's going to win here in the long run? You're better off sitting down and let's get a contract and let's move on with this world. And in today's world, I'll cripple you. I will cripple you, and you have no idea what that means.
First of all, boo to union thugs. Second of all, thank you, LW78, for the donation, the Rumble Rant. I think you're the first one. said this Elon story kind of pisses me off. He's out here materially helping lives when it's needed, and the people now accepting his help want to jail him the moment they get the chance. Brilliant, L-Dubs. I don't know who you are, sir, but I feel like we would be friends in real life. Yes. This is a serious problem in the United States. We are dependent now on the international trade that fuels the lifeblood of our economy. And this dock worker, this longshoreman, knows it. And now we are in a situation where, on one hand, we have political populist movements that want us to manufacture things in the United States. That's fine. But if you don't want to spend the next 5 to 10 to 15 years and spend billions and billions of dollars, maybe trillions of dollars in investments in the United States in order to have the kind of infrastructure to manufacture the things that we need in order to do our jobs on a daily basis. Just remember, Joni Rankin, her Trumpy Buddha that she ordered for me is going out to her in the post office today. And you say, oh, well, that's made in America. But where do you think I was able to get the printer from, right? The 3D printer that I needed in order to manufacture my ultra MAGA, silky, Trumpy Buddha over at forlibertyshop.com. It came from China, right? It's not made in China. I made the Trumpy Buddha here, but I needed the printer, and they can't make a printer like that here in the United States for $100. So a middle-class person like myself can afford it and can compete with major manufacturers who have massive additive manufacturing 3D printers, quote unquote, and molds that I can't afford. And now I'm definitely going to be screwed if I need parts, if I need to fix these things, if somebody else wants to buy an ultra MAGA silky Trumpy Buddha at forlibertyshop.com. I better hope that they fix this soon enough, or that there isn't a problem with my 3D printer, because my 3D printer that I manufacture, my ultra MAGA silky Trumpy Buddha, the printer comes and the parts come from China. I manufacture it here in the United States, but we are dependent on international trade for everything that we do. That's why I hate the idea of tariffs. It's why I hate the idea of blocking international trade. It's one thing to say, all right, let's take our manufacturing out of China and maybe move pharmaceuticals out of China and it's a sensitive industry and put it in India, for example. My idea is that we need to be working harder to team up with Javier Milei and Argentina and see what we can't do to try and just basically turn the Western Hemisphere into a north-south common market that flows between North America, South America, and we just avoid Europe and Asia altogether, because they're nothing but trouble for the United States. It should just be the Americas, North America, South America, the free lands, the free Americas. That's what it is. Not one nation and globalism. Ugh. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying just the free Americas, right? So more free American states that are based on mutual admiration, free trade, and free movement of peoples between nations that account for security protocols. I know that groypers and, right-wing populists don't like some of this shit, but I don't give a shit. I'm a libertarian, bitch. I'm not bowing down to people who are economic illiterates, like this Teamster thug and these populists who come to me and they're like, it's not economics. It's not economic freedom. It's not economically sound, the policies that people want to foist on us. No, it's just keep my job, right? What are these longshoremen fighting for? You know what they're fighting against? They're fighting against automation. Right? It's like the fast food McDonald's workers with the robots, right? They're making the burgers and flipping the burgers, right? You raise the minimum wage, you keep doing it. What do you think they're going to do? They're going to put in the consoles, right? They're going to do it. And you are not going to stop technology. You are not going to stop. The Luddites will never win. They haven't won a single, they win battles, but you're not going to win the war. Technology will go forward, and the more you demand higher wages, and here's the thing, the rich people, it's such a rich man's trick to get people to hate money and to loathe themselves, because the rich and powerful people don't want people like me to be able to manufacture ultra mega silky Trumpy Buddhas in my office like I can, if I can buy a printer for $100 from China and have it shipped here to the United States, or maybe one day from Argentina and have it shipped here to the US, and I can manufacture my ultra mega silky Trumpy Buddha in my house for a limited price, then I'm competing with people who have economies almost of scale. They're going out and they're using their resources to buy extremely expensive equipment to do what I can do in my house with 2 or 3 Ender 3 V2 Pro V2 Pro 3D printers. So anyways, I don't need to rant about this, but we've got a problem. Dockworkers walked off their jobs at dozens of ports from Maine to Texas at midnight, launching a strike that threatens to rattle the American economy 5 weeks ahead of the presidential election. Yeah, this is the last thing Kamala Harris needs. Member of the International Longshoremen's Association, members, which represents 45,000 dockworkers at East and Gulf Coast ports, began picketing early Tuesday at cargo terminals that handle more than half of American import and export volumes as the contract with port employers expired. Port employers, pressed by Biden administration officials to resolve the impasse, raised their offer on wages to a 50% increase over 6 years from an earlier, damn, I'm going to go get a longshoreman job, from an earlier 40% increase, along with other improvements and benefits in the 24 hours before the strike deadline. Now, let me just tell you something. I've had some good jobs in my life. I've had some bad jobs in my life. And maybe this is a commentary on me. Maybe Austin is a terrible employee. And it's very hard to make an analysis of judgment. I think I'm damn good, but herein lies the point. I never received pay raises, almost ever. And they would give you awards, right, for like doing well at your corporate job or your office or something like that. They would give you awards. Oh, you're doing well. But cost of living, like, never did raises ever keep up with the cost of living if they ever came for the rest of us as a society. So I'm glad that the longshoremen, I'm glad they're living well. It's an important job. And I'm not trying to denigrate anybody's job here. Certainly what I'm saying is that this economy is entirely out of whack, and it's a disequilibrium. We are not in a position now for the American people to be able to suffer the kind of shock that could come from another crisis of international shipping, such as the one that we had in 2020. I mean, from a political perspective, maybe it gets Donald Trump reelected, in which case that might be a good thing. Blue Trike reminding me, you rant for a living, AP. Yes, good point. Thank you. Yes. True. Back check. Somebody call Snopes. Anyways, I don't appreciate being threatened by union thugs, and the American economy is very delicate right now, in my opinion, and I don't know that we are really in a position to be able to take the blow that would come if we start experiencing the kind of manufacturing limitations that we had during COVID-19. We're going to have Remzo Martinez here in a little bit less than 5 minutes, or 5 minutes. And I've still got a billion clips for you. And Camelia Peterson will be joining us at 8 a.m. And that's when things get a little bit R-rated, when we talk about a scandal involving Corey DeAngelis. He's been on this show a couple of times to talk about school choice, embroiled in a sex scandal, and one that we're going to be discussing this morning. And then at 8:30, it only gets sexier when we talk about hot girls for Donald Trump. Newsweek decided to write an article about the right wing's obsession with hot girls, which is kind of, well, stupid, but also kind of sexy. How dare you? But also kind of stupid, but also kind of sexy. So Savannah Hernandez went out on the street, found hot girls, and asked them who they're voting for. I have the video, and we're going to speak to Audrey Pope at 8:30. It's going to be weird and wild and fun and wacky. It's the Wake Up America show. And what network is that on again? Oh, it's the For Liberty Network. We'll be right back.
See, not so far away.
By high prices and big government? Don't be a ghost of your former self this Halloween. We've got shirts that'll keep the ghouls and the government off your back. Inflation's scarier than any haunted house, but hey, why not turn it into a costume? Or how about our spooky government shirt? guaranteed to spook anyone who's afraid of too much power. But if you're feeling real edgy, nothing says Halloween like our Michael Myers No Lives Matter shirt. Cause when it comes to big government, we all get slashed. At 4libertyshop.com, we believe in freedom, not fear. So grab your libertarian Halloween gear before the government takes an extra bite out of your wallet. Or your candy. 4libertyshop.com. Let's make Halloween tax-free.
Are you tired of the strange radioactive effects of leftist culture? Do you ever wonder what happened to good old-fashioned American values? Well, fear no more, because there's a new force fighting back against the cultural rot of today. Introducing Culturama, a right-of-center talk show that's taking back the future today. Hosted by none other than blonde bombshell herself, Daniela Pensack. She's not just talking, she's taking culture back. With sharp takes, brilliant guests, and a few surprises along the way. Tune in to the live video podcast twice a week, because the future doesn't have to be weird. It can be Culturama.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian, and always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
What is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
The conservative, so-called, is the one that says less government, get off my back, get out of my pocket, and let me have more control of my own destiny.
Do you hate the deep state? Do you reject the Antichrist in all his ways? Do you believe that aliens controlled LBJ to assassinate John F. Kennedy? Did you know that the shot can put chemicals in you that will make you more sensitive to 5G? Do you love America? Do you want more freedom? Do you like smoking hot red-headed libertarians? Then the AP for Liberty shop is for you! Check out all the awesome new merch and have a happy new year! Fight the deep state, reject the Antichrist! Visit AP for Liberty shop and get your patriotic merchandise now, or the deep state wins!
Good morning. Rise in freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network. That's right, it's a network. Not just the Wake Up America show, but 2 brand new shows coming October 15th. That's right, 2 weeks away until we have Culturama featuring Daniela Pensack, a retro 1950s themed radioactive fun Fallout style show. She's Marilyn Monroe with a master's degree. I coined it. She gets to keep it. And we've got the boys from Liberty Tonight who were on yesterday, Thursday the 17th. You want more information about the 4 Liberty Network, visit 4libertynetwork.com. Follow us on our Locals page in conjunction with Rumble and Locals. We're making it happen. Finally, a news talk that makes Liberty look good. We promise we won't get up and get naked up on stage unless it's someone that you actually want to see naked up on there on stage. Remzo Martinez joins us live. Hey, Remzo. Nice to see you, brother.
Hey, Austin.
Good morning. I think there's a difference between naked hot and naked disgusting fat guy. There is, right?
Oh, very clearly. Very clearly. And as you know, it's the new right-wing fascination to be attracted to hot women. So
you read this article too. You saw this too in Newsweek, and a real article saying about talking about the right's obsession with hot girls. It's like, and for some reason, I feel like they needed to write it, even though they shouldn't have to write it. But it's like, maybe it does need to be said that there are normal heterosexual people who find beautiful women attractive.
I mean, Austin, I like my women the old-fashioned way, without penises. So that in and of itself makes me a right-wing extremist, just by the very nature of that statement.
We've got a great show coming today. Remzo and I've got 2 great guests in the 8 o'clock hour when things are going to get kind of X-rated, maybe rated R. I'll try. But we're going to talk about that with some actual hot girls today on the show. Camelia and Audrey, who will be joining us at 8 and 8:30. But since you're not a hot girl, Remzo, you're only just sort of a connoisseur of them, an enjoyer and appreciator of them. Let's talk about something a little bit closer to home that defines masculinity. Working as a dock worker and a longshoreman, that is a tough job. That's the kind of job that you kind of got to be a tough dude to handle. Now, I know some tough girls who are longshore women, and they are strong as well. So when you put that class and that culture up against the Biden administration, I mean, they just look weak in comparison. So the next 6 weeks, what do? They choke the economy. Do they get Trump reelected? I mean, go down the avenue and give me all the angles on this as your take.
It was either 2021 or 2022 when the railroad workers threatened to go on strike, and Congress had to go ahead and pass that massive bill that went ahead and made some concessions to the rail workers union, and it was essentially for a small bump in overtime hourly pay. There was another small bump in overtime pay, and then what they wanted was a degree of guaranteed days off regarding holidays. The right went really crazy about this. They're demanding too much. But when you actually looked at historically when the last time something like that had been passed, and it had been over 30 years, and what they were actually asking for, it wasn't necessarily that crazily unfair. But everyone, including Democrats, they went ahead and erupted, especially since we were already dealing with supply chain issues because of COVID. It's like we all just kind of memory hold that for a moment. That was really hard to get stuff for a couple of years, and that prices on things got really out of hand. So now you go ahead and you look at this, and this is, I would say, this is that situation, but way, way more impactful, because when you look at, East Coast, West Coast docks, what we're dealing with is basically our massive capability of getting just the basic things on. It's no longer, will Amazon deliver my random tchotchke by this afternoon? It's, can we keep Walmart stocked? Can we keep Costco stocked? Can we keep Targets and the other grocery stores for the big things stocked? Are small businesses going to even be able to get the supplies that they go ahead and order overseas, primarily from China? So if they go ahead and they basically say, yeah, go ahead and dock your ship, we're not unloading anything, and we're certainly not transporting anything. This brings us to probably something that's hasn't been seen since the air traffic controller strike under Reagan. However, if this is to really go as long and be as impactful as it could potentially be, since it's happening with our supply chain, it could be remarkably worse simply because we don't have a Reagan. We don't even have a president. Joe Biden he has no clue what's going on. Yesterday, he walked out of his limousine and somebody asked him what he had to say about something related to this, and he had no clue what was happening. The president is asleep. When you take this and you take Hurricane Helene, and you go ahead and you think of the massive devastation, the massive issues that are going on with just people trying to get around that part of the Southeast United States, then you go ahead and add this strike to it. What we're seeing is that working people are essentially saying, you know what, there's too much going on. We're either slammed by Mother Nature or we're slammed by the economy. And I haven't quite looked into the exact demands of the longshoremen and the dockhands, but I don't think it's going to be something that Kamala can negotiate, because Kamala's never negotiated anything in her life. She's never been a leader. If she is the de facto president, which she is, because now she suddenly decided to take an interest in the border and an interest in the hurricane victims, while Donald Trump and Elon Musk are bringing Starlink to North Carolina and stuff like that. This is essentially showing what we saw a couple weeks ago at the Teamsters poll, which is, yeah, you know what? Go ahead and don't endorse a candidate. Yeah, go ahead and have a couple state councils endorse Kamala, even though the overwhelming majority of your workers and your union members voted for Trump. I think what this is, and people can look at just the minute to minute nature of this, or they could see what this really means. What this means is that Kamala is not going to be president. If Trump were president, this wouldn't be happening right now. And I think that this is in some way a reminder of, hey, if you don't think that this is good, because it's going to only get worse if this woman comes in. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but as you kind of look at the situation, I don't think anyone with two brain cells genuinely believes that anyone from the Biden-Harris administration is going to be able to reach out to union leaders and say, let's cut a deal.
No, you make a lot of sense, Remzo, and I'm glad
I do that with the Taliban.
No, you make a lot of sense, and I'm grateful that you get up early and join us to share your POV with us here this morning. Nelson65 says, fortunately, most of the stuff is in the stores and warehouses for Christmas stuff. Well, that's good. We want to have a Merry Christmas for sure, but on the long tail of things, if we don't have Donald Trump as president of the United States next year, then I think we are in big trouble when it comes to our supply chains. I read a study the other day that said that in order for us to be able to manufacture something as simple as a toaster here in the United States, by the time we get all of the investments made and all of the labor and all of the equipment and materials that we need to be able to make something as simple as a toaster, that an American-made toaster would cost something like $270. If we completely, change our supply chains, invest into the infrastructure that's necessary, and then actually make the toaster, almost a $300 toaster here in the United States. I mean, we are extremely dependent on international trade, and it affects our foreign policy. For example, the government of Taiwan and the island of Taiwan. I mean, how much of the bellicosity of China towards the United States has to do with the simple fact that we are absolutely dependent on chip manufacturing? And you can be like the most anarchist, Scott Horton, antiwar.com, the U.S. regime is the cause of all the world's evil. You could be the most anti-U.S., anti-Israel people you want to be in the world, anti-U.S. foreign policy. But if all of a sudden the United States can no longer access microchips for all of the devices that we all use every day, Scott Horton will volunteer to join the army to go and kill him some communist Chinese and all that kind of stuff. Like when people actually are faced with the reality of things like, do you remember the baby formula shortage? I mean, you want to see people fighting and get violent pretty quick, cut off our supply of our technology, right?
I mean, we saw what it was like with toilet paper alone, and that's a product that is actually manufactured and shipped out of Green Bay, Wisconsin, the largest toilet paper supplier in the world. So, when we're fighting over something that's even manufactured here that's considered essential, you go ahead and you look at the baby formula shortage, which happened under Biden. You go ahead and look at everything else that happened under Biden. We can't just keep going back to COVID, the lockdowns. That was relatively, like, as bad as it was, that was relatively figured out in a way that was pretty fast when you look at the gravity of the situation. We're nowhere near that situation right now. And this is where we've been brought. And in a broader way, I think this also kind of highlights something that a lot of libertarians have kind of hit on Trump over the last few years. I certainly disagreed with quite a bit, and now I'm not saying I completely agree, but I understand. But you can only have a true free market in a sense that you're expecting all the other players to act honorably. So, right now I'm seeing ads all over YouTube where Harris is attacking, the Trump tax. And there are certain, Cato style reasoned libertarians who are like, Trump wants to go ahead and do that. And it's like, why though? Why? Because other countries have tariffs on our stuff. We do place tariffs on items as well. But the idea is okay, we can either pay a sales tax on things, a consumption tax, and in the process, eliminate the income tax. One, Congress doesn't like to vote on taxes. So the idea that one of those outcomes is going to happen is already kind of slim. But if it did, and taxation is theft, I'd rather pay a consumption tax than an income tax.
Correct.
I'd rather have.
But they never do that. They never do that. They always just give us both tax, and then he talks about raising the tariffs, and it's like, no, dude, you got to cut the income tax first. Like here's my thing. When it comes to something like that, the idea to replace the income tax with tariffs, I understand the argument there. There may be there's some drawbacks to that approach, certainly, and I definitely am wary about it. You gotta get rid of the income tax first. You can't do it at the same time. Think you're gonna pull some switcheroo and it's gonna all work magically or something like that. I know how they operate, and if you don't get rid of one first and kill it, make sure it's dead, right? It's like one of those horror films where like the villain is like, it comes back. It's like the federal bank, right? The central bank. It's like we killed it twice, and it's like returns from the grave. We've got to kill the IRS and the income tax deader than a hornet. And I worry that this discussion about raising more tariffs, it's going to affect people like me, Remzo, because the fact is that I manufacture ultra MAGA, silky, Trumpy Buddhas in my For Liberty shop store. But and that's made in America, quote unquote. But I had to buy the 3D printer from China because I can't afford to buy the kind of manufacturing equipment that people who are in this business who operate at scale can do. So all these taxes do is just royally screw people, young entrepreneurs, and people like myself who are trying to get into business. And the cronies, they all benefit from these kinds of taxes. So it just, we can get into the finer points of this stuff a little bit later. A lot of this stems from a psychosexual problem that American men are suffering from. And I say that making you smile, but it's true. Like yesterday, I read an article in the Wall Street Journal talking about how American men are falling behind. And I think part of it has to do, Remzo, with the fact that we have so few male role models that are positive, healthy, optimistic male role models that are, willing to put themselves in the public eye, because God knows we know what happens to people who put themselves out there in the public eye. We're going to speak to Camellia Peterson about that at 8 a.m. Central Time. But still, when I read this article about Doug Emhoff, the husband of Kamala Harris, he does this interview with MSNBC's Jen Psaki. It's a softball, of course. Says he's reshaped the perception of masculinity because he banged his first wife, he banged the nanny and got her knocked up. Now he's a hero for it. and when every other guy is considered a villain. But it's this new phrase that the left has trotted out. I want to get your reaction to it. It's called, they're calling it wife guy energy. Remzo, Doug Emhoff has wife guy energy. Do you want the first gentleman to have wife guy energy?
No, and I mean this is kind of like the evolution of something that we've largely seen in popular culture. I loved that show, Modern Family, growing up. You know, my
Yes.
family and I used to watch Modern Family, and we love it. But I always felt really bad for the character of Phil because Phil had a job. Phil was a real estate agent. Phil had two kids. Phil had a house. Phil had a lovely wife. But Phil was treated like a moron. And Phil was constantly treated like, you know, he didn't necessarily matter. Phil was almost a side character in his own in an ensemble show of side characters. But you know, this is the extension of the Homer Simpson. This is an extension of you know, Peter Griffin. What we saw is that, you know, dad, the masculine role model, the patriarch of the family, is not just dumb. He could be dumb but still useful. They serve a purpose. They have jobs. They can still buy multiple cars for Marge and the kids and everything. But now we're at the point where, especially the last 5, 6 years, and you see this whenever you post, whenever somebody posts something about like the role of fathers on like Twitter or Instagram or something, you always get the single moms who attack fathers. It went from dad is stupid to now dad is unnecessary. So if dad is stupid and dad is unnecessary, what is the role of a man? The role of a man is simply to be a supporter of women. Because if you're not going to support women, you're useless. And with Doug Emhoff, you know, this is just there's nothing authentic about this. There's no grassroots movement about this to try and repaint what his form of masculinity is, because we see it with the hats. Have you seen the Harris Walls hunter caps? It's like they're trying for the first time ever, and you see this in her commercials. And I'm in a battleground state of Wisconsin, so we're getting very labor, healthcare focused stuff. But this is the first time I've ever seen a Democrat campaign that's actually trying to get white men.
Yes,
Which is
I was shocked.
The weirdest thing ever. So when I look at, you know, and I try and get out of my bubble, I look at all the places I follow on X where I'm getting all the aggregated poll results from, you know, the national vote and the electoral college and all the battleground states. And I go ahead and look at 538 and all the others that are on the first page of Google, New York Times. And it's two completely different visions as to how this is going. And my thing is like, it has to be in the middle. However, I'm still going to lean right, maybe if it confirms my bias, simply because you're not going to talk about being a gun owner on Oprah if you're doing well. And you're not going to sell hunter caps when the last 3 Democrat campaigns worth of stuff was everything pride themed. I don't think she's doing well internally. Democrat staffers, people at CNN, why is it people on her own side are leaking shit about her and Walls and everyone else? I don't think that this is something that's popularly being even moved by the left. Doug Emhoff energy, yeah, it's just weird.
This is Tim Waltz bragging about mass immigration overwhelming the small town of Worthington, Minnesota.
We have more refugees per capita than any other state. That's not just morally a good thing. It's our economic and cultural future. This beautiful diversity we see out in Worthington when I'm there, you see 50 languages spoken in the school. We have more refugees.
50 languages spoken in the school, Remzo. I mean, you're a Martinez, right? I mean, que sera, sera, whatever will be, will be. I mean, it's diversity is our strength, right?
No. No.
Come on, Pete. We got a Peterson here. We got a Martinez. Latinos for Donald Trump.
I mean, yeah, I mean, let's take a foreign third world developing population and dump them into small town America where resources are already scarce, and let's go ahead and see how things work out. We have, and it doesn't work out. And we know that because let's go ahead and do a counter comparison to that. Let's go ahead and fill up the New York City public schools, which are the highly funded schools, which are the schools with the most accredited teachers, which are the schools that have every ESOL program known to man. and let's see how that works. Let's go ahead and take it to where you get the richest counties with the most affluent parents and with the government contractors. Let's put them in, I don't know, Fairfax County public schools, where I went to middle school and high school. I went to Centerville High School. And what you have is you get a point where when the demand to cover basic language services surpasses the requirements to teach them the basic knowledge that they need at their grade level, assuming that you're even getting kids at the proper age into the proper age levels, like the 18-year-old obviously is not a high school freshman, really start telling me how that works. And for Minnesota, here's the thing that I just have to figure out as being Minnesota's neighbor. Anything Tim Walz says positive about Minnesota is a lie, because all people need to do is go on the local news, the local Fox or whatever in Minneapolis, and tell me that that's a place you want to live. For a Midwest state, for a blue Midwest state, they're going to have one of the fastest shrinking economies over the next 5 years, regardless as to what happens nationally. We're seeing that here in Wisconsin too. Minnesota, Wisconsin have a rapidly aging population. People are not moving here to work. People here who are highly skilled are moving out of state. So when he's like, oh, you know, we're going to bring all these people and they're going to be an economic driver and everything else, you're assuming also that they're going to work. And usually whenever Democrats talk about anyone, especially Latinos, Hispanics, it's never about us being doctors and lawyers and engineers. It's always who's going to do the manual labor that the white people won't do.
Who will clean your toilets, Donald Trump, said the chick from Ozzy Osbourne's daughter, Kelly Osbourne, on The View. Remzo Martinez, he's Hey Remzo over on X. Hey Remzo, what you got going on over in your world?
Go ahead and check out ampamerica.com. We got plenty of pieces from Austin and friends and others. So go ahead and check that out. That's at Amp America News on X. And to catch up with me, it's just Hey Remzo, HEYREMSO.
Hey Remzo, thank you very much, Remzo. We appreciate you. A Latino for Donald Trump. Have a great day, man.
Well, Walz is a buffoon. I'm sorry. This guy, he's the only school teacher in America who brags that none of his students can get into an Ivy League school.
I had 24 kids in my high school class, and none of them went to Yale.
He's had one consequential press interaction with our Dana Bash, who asked him about the fabrications in his own resume, and his answer was essentially, me no understand words good.
My wife, the English teacher, told me my grammar is not always correct, but again,
I mean, he's a buffoon. He's on a free ride for running under Harris. He gets very little press. They don't let him talk to the press for a reason. I want one thing out of this debate. I want J.D. Vance to go out there and get under his skin. He has legendary hot, short temper. A lot of governors do, but apparently he does. I want J.D. Vance to go out there and have him explain why he is denigrating J.D. Vance's story. Small-town America ends up making something better out of his life, which is something we should want for every kid. Walz is a buffoon. I'm sorry.
Damn good stuff. Scott Jennings over on CNN. I can't believe that they let that happen. We're going to speak to Camelia Peterson here live in just about 5 minutes. We've raised $5 towards the $60 goal, don't you know?
On the right, they know. From the wackos on the left to the MAGAs on the right, they know I'm beating Kamala. This race won't even be tied. Her policies are nutso. She's out her goddamn mind. She just repeats the same thing, regurgitating her lines. She
How
thinks
bizarre.
that immigration without paperwork is good. Clearly not too much power underneath Kamala's hood. Borders are, it's what you are. Borders are,
Borders are.
Cackling Kamala, you're dumb. Mass inflation imminent if she weasels herself in. If that don't sound like fun to you, then you better help me win. I promise I'll secure you, you'll be in better hands. It'd be a flippin' free-for-all with what Kamala plans. Borders are, it's what you are. Borders are, laugh it up, Kamala. This lady, she's cackling crazy.
Nice. Amelia Peterson joins us live in 5 minutes. Things are going to be going rated R to rated X here on the Wake Up America show in less than 5 minutes. If you'd like to see our bonus content, get those Rumble Rant donations in. I think we've raised $6 towards this, $5 towards the $60 goal. We might not make it. Don't make today the day that the For Liberty Network isn't able to hit its goal. We've done this for 3 months. You can do it. Head to forlibertyshop.com. Buy yourself some coffee, especially with our new pods that we have. When we get back on the Wake Up America show, Amelia Peterson talks sex scandal. She's going to blush.
Are you tired of the strange radioactive effects of leftist culture? Do you ever wonder what happened to good old-fashioned American values? Well, fear no more, because there's a new force fighting back against the cultural rot of today. Introducing Culturama, a right-of-center talk show that's taking back the future today. Hosted by none other than blonde bombshell herself, Daniela Pensack. She's not just talking, she's taking culture back. With sharp takes, brilliant guests, and a few surprises along the way. Tune in to the live video podcast twice a week, because the future doesn't have to be weird. It can be Culturama.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. But I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian and always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
What is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
Conservative, so-called, is the one that says less government, get off my back, get out of my pocket, and let me have more control of my own destiny.
Do you hate the deep state? Do you reject the Antichrist in all his ways? Do you believe that aliens controlled LBJ to assassinate John F. Kennedy? Did you know that the shot can put chemicals in you that will make you more sensitive to 5G? Do you love America? Do you want more freedom? Do you like smoking hot red-headed libertarians? then the AP for Liberty shop is for you. Check out all the awesome new merch and have a happy new year. Fight the deep state, reject the Antichrist. Visit AP for Liberty shop and get your patriotic merchandise now, or the deep state wins.
Good morning. Rise in freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network. Tuesdays and Thursdays are special days on the show. We have Camelia Peterson, who joins us live at 8 a.m. Central Time here on the new 4 Liberty Network, and she's here with us now. Good morning, CJ. How are you feeling today?
Good morning. I'm so excited for all of the new and upcoming things with the now 4 Liberty Network. Neat stuff.
Yeah, thanks, Camelia, and I appreciate all your support from it. You know, you've been a Peterson's Patriot member since we started for 2 years. Huge contributions to help us to get to where we are right now, and I'm sure, you know, it's nice to see that your investment has really paid off, that we're actually, you know, expanding and growing in new areas. So thank you for being a friend of the show and being a financial contributor as well. Camelia, everybody, I think, needs to give you a round of applause.
Oh, thanks.
Well, thank you, though. You've played a big part in getting us to where we're at, CJ, because your Tuesdays and Thursday spots, everybody looks forward to. It's our chance to make you blush. And my chance to remind people that, like I said earlier, that the 8 a.m. Central Time now, we are in 8 a.m. Central Time. This is rated R, rated X territory, FYI. So for the next hour, if you have delicate, sensitive ears, if you find yourself to be a tad bit curmudgeonly, if your butt is tighter than a snare drum, you are in the wrong place. This is adult conversation time. Okay? Okay.
So this is like late night, but for morning.
Late night, but for morning. Because, well, how can we talk about such a sensitive topic involving someone that we know that's our friend
Sure.
and not mention what the controversy is? So, Camelia, I think you'll probably put it more delicately than I ever could. So would you mind just setting this story up of what we're talking about here today with our friend Corey DeAngelis and the scandal that he's embroiled in?
Sure. So, I mean, a week ago, a little over a week ago, over the weekend, somebody had sent me something about and made a comment that was clearly referring to Corey. And I was like, what are you talking about? And so I hadn't been on Twitter, had not seen whatever it was that was supposedly blowing up. So apparently a right-wing journalism source, small journalism org out of Texas had put out a story. They'd been doing some digging and had dug up some content that Corey had done 10 years or more ago when he was in college that involved, well, let's just say it, gay porn, right? Okay, there's really no other way to candy-coat that. So, I mean, I think that was a shock to everybody, and just given the magnitude of his role in the school choice movement in the last several years. And the reality is like none of that diminishes what he's accomplished. But I think, you know, the shock for most people was not so much, at least for me anyway, like it wasn't so much that, you know, he had something like that in his past. It was more the surprise in that, you know, stuff like that just always comes out. It's never going to stay hidden.
Oh yeah, you're never going to get to run away from something like that.
No, and especially, you know, the more you become a public figure and the more haters you get, you know, the higher the chances that comes out. And, you know, I felt really bad. I mean, really, one of my first instincts is I felt really bad for what he was going through. He has a wife and a new baby. And I have no idea what the context was or what the circumstances were or what his life has been like since then. And I don't really care what happened 10 years ago, but it certainly made waves in the education freedom movement. And, you know, frankly, it wasn't really like, I know that right now online is being portrayed as the left coming after him, but the truth is that is our own side coming after him. There is this contingent on the right that is opposed to giving parents more options for their kids for education, and they're very pro public education, and they don't want to see you be able to use your tax dollars that you pay all the time into the government for your kids' education that is being misused to indoctrinate them in DEI and CRT and everything else under the sun that is not reading, writing, and arithmetic, right? So they don't want you to be able to use that money to educate your kids in the way that you see best. And so they, like Corey, has been a threat to that. And so they have come after him. They've come after him. They've come after us in Missouri. But they have in the school choice movement has made significant strides in Texas lately. They really had some big wins in the last election for Republican legislators who had been opposed to school choice were unseated and replaced in the primary. And so I think that, they felt very threatened. And I will drop one more name in here because your viewers might know who she is. But a woman named Sarah Fields, kind of big on Twitter and has, broken a lot of stories and does a lot of new stuff, quote unquote. She was kind of at the tip of the spear on this as well. And has been, I saw a lot of her content, but then I started seeing things here and there that she was opposed to the education issue as far as education freedom. And so that was kind of, that's always red flag for me because I understand the concerns that people have, but to just say, okay, sorry, we can't do anything. Your kid's stuck in a public school because you don't make enough money to do something else or you don't have the support system to do so. Like, no, thanks.
Thank you for summarizing that so eloquently, Camelia. This story reminds me a little bit of that line from the movie Naked Gun where Leslie Nielsen is talking to his romantic interest and he says, I've seen these pictures of you. And she goes, I was young. I needed the money.
I mean, maybe. I don't know.
You can hear the sound. You can hear the sound effects now, can't you?
I can, yes. That's great.
Yeah.
So one of the things that, a week ago, I would have said, a week ago, I told people, I was like, I have no intention to say anything publicly about this at all. I will reach out personally. But there's no need, like, as far as I'm concerned, like, just ignore it, let it go away. However, I will say, there were some people who said things, made some very good statements. One of our own outgoing representatives here in the state, who's also a pastor, put out a really good statement on Twitter about, recognizing that you can make mistakes in your past and also do great good in your present and future. And that he's, that doesn't mean, he was like, in politics, like it's unforgiving when they dig up your past. It's just unforgiving. He's like, I'm not going to be a part of that. He was like, I remain a friend, like, and there's no reason not to. And that's exactly how I felt about it too. But, there was, Corey didn't respond up until yesterday. And I think, there was a lot to be, I think, worked out in the background with obviously the organizations he works with and whatnot. And there was real concern about the damage that this might do to the school choice movement. But when he came out and he put out a statement, he basically, recognized that, you make mistakes in your past and you move on. And, the kids, that's what's important to him. Those things don't need to be, the mistakes that he made in the past, like he knows from experience now, those things don't need to be in the schools. And not to mention like what you expose kids to and what adults do are entirely different things.
Well, the left is mischaracterizing this, like painting him as an anti-LGBTQ guy, but they do that. So they do that deceptively because all he is against that kind of material that he created being in schools. He's not against it being it being illegal or outlawed or some. Corey DeAngelis is kind of one of us, the freaks and geeks. This is sex, drugs, and rock and roll wing of the GOP. We're the libertarians, for God's sakes. Damn it, we're the libertarians.
And he is philosophically consistent. The whole
He
time
is.
he has been
Right,
philosophically
but and they're being
consistent.
dishonest about it. And I will say this though, like as a criticism of Corey, and maybe this speaks to more of a challenge that we have. So like that North Carolina Republican governor who allegedly said he's a black Nazi on porn sites and all this kind of stuff. We all have a past. I mean, we all have things in our past that we don't like necessarily want everybody to run for, to see if we run for office. And so I could imagine why Corey DeAngelis obviously would not want to tell the rest of us, but you might suggest that, like you and I had said when we were discussing this, that like it does put the rest of us in a difficult position. Now we have to defend him, and now we have to fight back against him and spend time and valuable energy and resources combating not only the retard left but the retard right. So, it's election year. We don't need this kind of stuff. And yeah, it affects Corey more than it affects the rest of us. But like, in some sense, like, I'm standing with the team and we're fighting for school choice. And I don't care what Gail Griswold or any other people here in Missouri want to say about school choice and dollars chasing schools. Like, I don't care. I'm not one of you. I am not an authoritarian, retarded social conservative who doesn't understand that the role of government is to stay out of people's personal affairs. You can have your social views and you can have them how you want, but personally, I don't give a shit if Corey DeAngelis did gay porn. It doesn't affect me, and he's a warrior for a cause that I believe in. And if you don't like him because of his sexuality, fuck you. I don't care what you think about other people's private sexual behaviors that don't impact other people. But when the left tries and put these ideas and things like this into schools and children, fuck you too, because you have no right to do that to children or people who are not consenting adults. I believe consenting adults should be able to do black tar heroin while filming their gay pornography, because this is America, damn it. This is America. And I don't know, maybe doesn't mean I'm endorsing their behavior. Doesn't mean that I think that you should do heroin. Doesn't mean that I think, gay porn is necessarily a healthy activity or a pursuit that anybody should follow, because it's dangerous. Sex trafficking is on the edge of it. And I'm sorry to rant here, but it's like people they can't see the forest for the freedom, right? The enemies of liberty use things like this to drive a wedge between us. And I'm glad that many conservatives aren't like taking the bait and falling for it and throwing him under the bus. Right. I'm glad that it's just the inbred retard caucus that's out there like, the Westboro Baptist Church of the Republican Party is upset about it. But for the rest of us, we don't give a shit. We'd rather have our schools be free. We'd rather have a freer society and less government involvement in our lives.
And so there's a couple of things here too, right? I think this whole thing is kind of brought to mind this bigger.
I said this hour is going to be rated R, rated X. So FYI.
Well, you've gone there and done it. So I think this speaks to the cultural issue we have that we need to really normalize owning your past, right? Because people respect, and we also need to normalize not, just like burning someone down when they do that, because we want that in people, right? I think people do respect when someone comes out and says, look, up front, before you had to find it, right? This was part of my past. And that's not me anymore. That's not what I want to do. Like, I have learned from my life lessons, right? And I'm moving forward in good and productive ways. We need to normalize radical candor in that. I mean, because people are, one of the number one things over the last year that I have heard at doors talking to people that they hate is one of the first things they will say is that your government lies to you. Well, maybe it's because the government is responding to what people want to hear. And maybe we should normalize accepting people's mistakes and allowing people to make apologies.
I know, but it's different for Corey because he's not running for office. Like the North Carolina governor story, if those things are true, he said he's on a porn site, so he's horny, so he says things like, I'm a black Nazi. You know what I mean? Right. People have weird fetishes. Who cares? Right? Did he harm kids? Did he break the law? Right? No. Right? The thing is that the Democrats are doing everything they can to destroy the Republican Party, and the Republican Party is doing everything they can to destroy the Republican Party too. They throw our people under the bus for things that are completely not a problem for anyone. They're not a crime. And then they'll go after people for things. They'll go after things for people that are not crimes, and then they will cover up the things that are actual crimes and stuff like that, like the dirty deals that like people like Mitch McConnell will do. So when they commit actual crimes, there's no responsibility for them. But if they go out there and if they express that, oh yeah, I was on Adult Friend Finder or something like that, then it's the end of their career. And the Democrats are more than happy to do that, even though they're sick of perverted, deranged weirdos who want to get their sick perversions deranged into schools. Republicans are like, we're sick, perverted, deranged weirdos, but we just don't want them in the schools. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, right.
I mean, what's his name? Madison Cawthorn? Was he he's like from North Carolina, isn't he? And he got in trouble. I saw the videos he got in trouble for. It's like stupid college homoerotica that a lot of guys played grab ass in college. It had nothing to do with homosexuality, but they chased him out because he told the truth that Republicans love cocaine sex orgies. And that's Tuesday in Washington, D.C., right? But it's scandal, right? He had the balls to tell the truth, and that's why they kicked him out.
So I understand the desire to have people in leadership who have lived a good life, who have done the best they can, and who are grounded in principles. And so are good role models, right? I mean, we do want our leaders to be good role models for our kids and to, because as a parent, right, you don't want your kids to go make the same mistakes you did, right? You want
Correct.
them to learn from your mistakes. So you also want them to have good role models, but they also need to learn that you do make mistakes. And you learn from them because they will.
Parents who use politicians as like role models and things like that, I think are a bit naive. It's naive.
Right. And we shouldn't be using politicians, honestly, if we're being real, as role models anyway. But there is a good argument for at least a balance there. Like we don't need to go all the way to the other side when it comes to what we expect.
No, it's true.
Leadership.
It's true.
So,
it would be nice if Corey DeAngelis hadn't done that, and it's certainly not becoming of someone who is in his position, which is one of trust and one of respect and honor. And I think he does take a bit of a ding to his reputation, not just because, for other people, like they hated him anyway, so they were just going to look for an excuse to try and destroy him and hate him even more. But I think that there is, an act of contrition, I think, to some extent, that is owed to the people who are defending him, and that we have to take time and precious resources away from such a silly scandal.
Right.
I hope Corey DeAngelis gets back on the horse and gets out there and fights. He's got a wife and he's got a child, and he's got a future, an outcome, a stake in the future of this country, like you do, like I do, like all who have children do. And I'm not going to let a little gay porn get in the way of that fighting for a fairer country.
And the last 24 hours has been so encouraging on that front because, you never know how people are going to react to that. And anybody who wonders how people on the right reacted to that, go look at Corey's Twitter because he is back. And it is like, anybody who's followed him very much knows his tweeting style, right? And so he is back at it. And the absolute outpouring from the right, from people, from everyday people like you and me, and, just the parent who's, fighting for better education for their kids, who's watched everything that he's done over the past several years and is grateful for that. Messages from those people, all the way up to people who are in government and organizations and people who it's in probably their better interest to they have come out with messages of support. I mean, people with huge followings and people who are nobodies, right? The support has been just enormous across the board and really good to see. And I think that's a positive thing. I think his response to that has been good. There's already been an attempted hit piece by, I don't know if it was the New York Times or somebody, but they basically, one of those reporters emailed him and said, we want to do a story about this. And you have an hour and a half to get back to us, right? So anyway, I think that's a real positive in terms of the direction that this could go. And I think that it clearly shows that we will move forward on this issue because our kids are what is important. The work that is done is what is important, and we're not stopping.
I love it. Camelia Peterson. All right, one last subject before we let you go. We have 5 minutes. Newsweek How hot girls became the right's new obsession. Marnie Rose McFall, the live news reporter over there, decided to write this article and says, it all began with Sydney Sweeney's cleavage. In March 27th, the 27-year-old actress hosted SNL for the first time wearing low-cut outfits during the start and close of the show, which featured a number of jokes about her physical appearance, including a sketch where she played a Hooters waitress. She came in and was like, everyone, please everyone, make jokes about my boobs. Yes, ma'am. The actress had become a so-called conservative a pinup for the modern-day right-wing movement as it attempts to expand the appeal of conservatism beyond the confines of largely older white male base. And some of the women that are mentioned in this article, Anna Paulina Luna, which, oh my God, Huck Tua girl. And then there's this one other chick who was in the Blade Runner movie that I can't remember her name right now, but she kind of became like a right-wing icon for a little while. What is it about this story that you think that somebody managed to get it to their editor and said, yeah, let's hit publish on this one? Same kind of decision making I'm making right now and talking about it, or why are we talking about this?
Well, I think probably because there's the demand for it, right? Right? This is the free market at work, right?
Supply and demand. We demand hot girls. I mean, there's a reason why you're on Tuesdays and Thursdays over here, Camellia. I get messages all the time. Camellia is hot. Camellia is pretty.
Right. Okay.
You got to read the Rumble comments afterwards. I get it. I see it a lot, Camellia. Sometimes I think you don't see those comments over there, but
I probably don't anyway, because they don't stay around, after a while. And if I don't get to them anyway. But
isn't the trope though that like leftists are like fat, ugly whales with purple hair and they're stinky and they've got armpit hair and nobody is attracted to them because they're either lesbians and they hate men or whatever. And then now right wingers are really all about the aesthetic. So, I mean, beauty and truth and light and love all goes together. And that's why right wingers like beautiful things and the left wants to destroy things that are beautiful because it offends them. It reminds them of the ugliness of not only their exterior, but their souls.
Yes. And I will say that is probably because the left has been obsessed with making
destroying paintings.
Well, right. Yeah. I mean, like stupid, yes. But also they want to make things with the whole feminist movement. They want to make things equitable in the terms of that, in the sense of that term, because you are not elevating the ideal anymore, because they have said, we're going to hurt somebody's feelings. They took it to the other extreme. It's not that we want to just accept people and see the beauty of who they are for who they are, because there is beauty in every person, right? And beauty is very subjective in a lot of ways. There are some norms, but it's very subjective and changes, like societal standards change. But I think that they have gone so far with that they have rejected our base human instincts and desire for beauty, whether it's in, people or nature or art. And this, I think they are experiencing the backlash against that. And because the right has not been obsessed with everybody being absolutely equal. I mean, we're more about everybody having the opportunity. It's why
we boycotted Bud Light. Right? It used to be that Bud Light was about. It spoke to a demographic of men who appreciated beautiful women with beautiful breasts out there on display unashamedly, right? You're kind of you're almost to the point of blushing there a little bit when I say things like that. But we used to have men who were unashamed of their attraction towards women and in their masculinity and the appreciation of female beauty as it is. Now it's you're all fighting to cover it up and to do, we're doing tuckums and things. And it's rather than sort of appreciating the display, the Puritans are fighting a war against the people like us, the libertarians, right? Some might call us libertines, but the Puritans of both left and right are trying to destroy this concept of female beauty because it is powerful. And conservatives, I think they want to wield it like a sword, and I can understand and appreciate why. As a matter of fact, this article sort of goes into this to an extent where they talk about how conservatives are using beautiful women, right? So be careful about the word using, not necessarily exploitative here. but that American conservatism wants to be appealing, and therefore beautiful women are appealing. When I first got into politics, Camelia, in 2008, somebody said, where beautiful women go, there goes the country. And because everybody wants to be a part of something where young and beautiful women are a part of it. There's a reason why people would follow Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's economic policies off a cliff. And it ain't because she's got a 200 IQ. She got D's in class, but she got double D's. It doesn't matter.
This is true. I think that, and I think we started to see more of this too on the right. When Trump, came into office in 2016, and it's been an interesting journey on the right. I'm conflicted about it, right? Because I think that we tend to go to extremes, and I like a nice balance, in the middle. But, you see all of these, hot girls posing in all of their Trump stuff, and they're making dumb music videos and whatever. And people are eating it up because they're half naked, right?
Absolutely. It is frustrating. It is frustrating as a guy because I have to actually be talented and work really hard at this. Whereas if I was you, Camelia, if I was like, a beautiful woman, like, if I just looked exactly like you, I would be so rich right now. It would not even be funny because it would be easy.
I am clearly doing something wrong.
Well, you're not doing it. You're not showing it off enough. Here's the thing. What was I going to say? There's an old Tosh Point joke. You probably never watched it. Funny show. But Tosh, he always said, like, being an ugly woman is like being a man. You're going to have to work. Life is on easy mode for hot women. So as a hot woman, Camelia, as at least according to our audience's measure, and of course, including the sapiosexual faction of the Wake Up America show's audience, of which the majority of them are pretty high IQ. What do you have to say? Final words before we go.
I think that the right, for a lot of obvious reasons, is correct. They are right in embracing truth and goodness and beauty. And I think that that's why we see the kind of the rise of the tradcon element too. That's a little grifty sometimes, but it is responding to that desire to see those traits in women, right? To see that femininity, to see us, emphasize, beauty and goodness, and those, like, not just in the outer beauty, because here's the deal: for all that what men respond to, men on the right also don't want to see sluts, right? I mean, they might want to see them, but that's not what they want in the long term.
Well, it's not who we want to necessarily have children with, right? It's a different story when you think about the woman that you want to spend the rest of your life with, which is, makes it a bit of a trouble if you have that kind of a background, depending on the type of family you might want to have. But no, not every guy is like that. Some guys are perfectly fine with it, because the truth is, of course, is that pretty much any woman can find any man, but any man can't necessarily find a woman at all. So there is a bit of a challenge in the dynamics there, difference. Sure. Mighty Megatron over the chat says, "Love me some sluts." By the way, see, so guys we'll take
now
we'll take whatever we can get
at all.
We'll take whatever we can get, right? But maybe the higher the status male, like the less likely it's going to be a Richard Gere, Julia Roberts, Pretty Woman situation. You've seen Pretty Woman, at least, haven't you? At least seen that movie, Julia Roberts, Pretty Woman.
Maybe.
No,
I don't know. Like, I know enough about it, but like, I can't. If I saw it, I've forgotten it already.
If we ever do get you a podcast on the For Liberty Network, Camelia, it's not going to be on pop culture. Camelia Peterson at Rare Camelia. Let's get her to do politics and pies. Get a Rumble Rant donation. And thanks to Andy for that $50 one. That means we unlock the bonus content. Camelia, anything else you want to say?
Nope. Have a great day, everyone. I'm happy it's autumn, and happy autumn.
Me too. See you at Oktoberfest. Bye, Camelia. Aren't we having so much fun? Thanks to Andy Opperman, we've unlocked the bonus content. The bonus content is so important because it has helped us to fuel the rise of the For Liberty Network so that we can have fun like that, joke around, talk about serious topics like the union dockworkers strike like we did earlier, talk with Remzo Martinez, get informed and entertained at the same time. You're not going to get content like you get on the For Liberty Network anywhere else on the internet. It's right here at 4libertynetwork.com. Coming up next, Audrey Pope. Boy, she has got probably a lot to say about that as a hot girl for Donald Trump. She wants to talk to us a little bit about her conversion to faith. Where did she meet Jesus Christ? She's going to talk to us a little bit about her life and times and why Democrats are crossing over to vote for Donald Trump on the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network.
Unlocking the Wake Up America show's bonus content. Your financial contributions make a huge impact in fueling the growth of the Wake Up America show and the 4 Liberty Network. Today, let's look at how the IRS is fining American hostages for taxes they missed while in captivity. Imagine returning home after being unlawfully detained overseas, only to find the IRS has billed you thousands of dollars in unpaid taxes and late fees. That's the unexpected reality for Americans like Evan Gerskovich, Paul Whelan, and Vladimir Kara-Murza. These former hostages faced a slew of financial surprises upon their release from Russian detention, including unexpected tax bills and credit issues stemming from unpaid obligations during their captivity. Washington Post reporter Jason Rezaian experienced a similar ordeal after spending 544 days detained in Iran. "I got one of those IRS bills saying, 'You owe this much from this year with interest accrued,'" Rezaian told NPR. His tax penalties exceeded $6,000, highlighting an oversight that few had considered. Currently, between 40 and 60 American nationals are being illegally detained abroad, as reported by NPR. Many will face similar financial penalties upon their return, adding an unnecessary burden to their already difficult circumstances. The IRS maintains that it doesn't have the legal authority to waive tax fees for returning hostages. However, legislative change may be on the horizon. Senator Chris Coons introduced the Stop Tax Penalties on American Hostages Act earlier this year. This bill would mandate the IRS to exempt hostages from tax liability during their period of detainment. It would also allow hostages and their spouses to apply for the removal of tax-related fines, providing much-needed financial relief. If passed, Coons' bill would address a small but significant flaw in the tax system. It's common sense that someone illegally detained abroad can't pay their taxes or even their Netflix subscription on time. In addition to coping with the trauma of being held hostage and the challenges of readjusting to normal life, former detainees shouldn't be burdened with thousands of dollars in fines for taxes they couldn't possibly have paid. Solving this issue would be a logical step in supporting the reintegration of these Americans back into society. It would also recognize the unique and unfair circumstances they endured. The Stop Tax Penalties on American Hostages Act represents a compassionate and practical solution to a problem that's been overlooked for too long. It aims to offer justice and peace of mind to those who've already suffered enough. By passing this bill, Congress can show that it stands with American hostages and recognizes the challenges they face upon their return. It's a necessary adjustment to a robotic tax system that lacks humanity in specific, rare circumstances. The bill has received bipartisan support, reflecting a shared understanding of the need for this change. Lawmakers across the aisle agree that former hostages shouldn't be penalized for circumstances beyond their control. Ultimately, addressing this issue is about fairness and empathy. It's about ensuring that the tax system can respond appropriately to exceptional situations like illegal detainment. Former hostages like Jason Rezaian have already faced unimaginable hardships. Eliminating these unfair tax penalties is a straightforward way to support their recovery and return to normal life. As Congress debates this bill, we can hope for a more just and compassionate response to the financial challenges faced by Americans returning from unlawful detention abroad.
Good morning. Rise in freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show on the brand new 4 Liberty Network. At 4libertynetwork.com, 2 brand new shows coming this fall. Culturama, starring Daniela Pensack. It is a retro 1950s Fallout-style themed show with Daniela Pensack as a Marilyn Monroe with a master's degree. You don't want to miss that. Launching October 15th. You can follow Culturama right here on Rumble right now, rumble.com/Culturama, or just visit 4libertynetwork.com because all of our content will be housed there on our locals page. Thank you to Rumble and to Locals for helping to make it happen. When YouTube demonetized me, Rumble reached out and said, hey, Austin, set up your For Liberty Network here. We're going to do everything we can to support you. And they certainly have. Then Thursday, October 17th, right after the second episode airing of Culturama from 7 to 9, at 9 p.m. Central launches the new Liberty Tonight, starring Brian Piotr and King Libertarian. The For Liberty Network has now 3 shows: the Wake Up America Show, Culturama, Liberty Tonight. We're kicking so much ass over here. Let's talk about some news. Democrats crossing over from the voting for Democrats to voting for Donald Trump. There's a lot of people who have sort of had the scales fall from their eyes about the reality of the economy, what Democrats are doing to our children in schools, and about what might happen if Kamala Harris and Tim Walz take over next year. One person who's had the scales fall from her eyes, joining us live for her second appearance on the Wake Up America show, is the lovely Audrey Poe from Louisiana. Good morning, Audrey. Nice to see you.
Hey, good morning. Thanks for having me again.
Audrey, I loved the pitch. It's perfect timing for you to come on here and join us today. We were talking about hot girls for Donald Trump. It's kind of a funny story. And we'll get to that a little bit later. But, your conversion story to saying that you want to vote for Donald Trump, I imagine that, being a girl, they kind of assume you're going to vote Democrat. So I imagine that when you decided you were going to vote for Donald Trump, you might have been a little shocked at some of the backlash you got. I know some of it happened online. I don't know if any of it happened in real life, but talk to us a little bit about that, about your kind of coming out as a hot girl for Donald Trump and how people treated you and how you were treated online when people found out that you were supporting him.
Yeah. Wow. It's been a journey. When I just was, on Instagram, doing my little dance videos, showing off, not really speaking my mind, everybody was really happy with me and had such nice things to say. And my Instagram was growing every day. And then, I started to feel hollow and like I wasn't doing anything important. Like I was just like any other girl, just showing off for attention. And I was like, how do I really feel? And I started, just watching some different videos. Like I started looking at Tucker Carlson, a few years ago, and I posted it, and I didn't even, say, oh, I'm voting for Trump or, whatever. I just, kind of posted it where he was talking about Trump and how people were kind of converting over to his side, to the Republican side, and people freaked out. Instagram freaked out. My follower count started going down rapidly. It still is, but now I just post whatever. But like that initial post after me, not saying anything about politics for years, growing, and then I made a post even just alluding to that I might be conservative or Republican or curious about it. And, it ruined my climb there, but that's okay because I feel better. I feel real.
Good. Well, good for you. I've been parts of groups, political groups, and felt pressure to conform. And I can't tell you how difficult it can be sometimes to stand up for what you believe in when you have people who are in your real social circles in your life who will abandon you based on your political beliefs. Audrey, I've had people who were very close to me completely cut me out of their life. And I said nothing unkind towards them, nothing hateful towards them at all. Just my political beliefs, which goes me to show that I think some of them really are in a cult. But it's sad just how, we call it Trump derangement syndrome, has infected people that we know, people that I love, maybe people you love too.
Yes. My own mom, I keep trying to convince her because she raised me Democrat and I was so on that side. Everything CNN said was gospel. And she's still like that. She will not listen to me when I, tell her just even take a look at this, take a look at that. It's like there's a block there, a total block where Trump is bad no matter what.
Yeah,
So
I have people like that in my life who are so triggered by any mention of him, so much so that we got a phone call the day that he was almost assassinated the second time, and the person was like, he really needs to stop saying these things that are making people want to kill him, and it just reminded me.
that's his fault.
Exactly. It's blame the victim stuff, right? It's like, oh, she was wearing those short skirts, she must have wanted it, right? It's the same. Exactly. Thank you. Exactly. But no matter how many times we wear MAGA hats on the streets of Chicago, we are not asking for it. We're not asking to get our asses kicked. But I mean, the left, they're very threatening. Like they'll send you DMs and instant messages. I mean, I've had plenty of assassination requests to Jesus from leftists and some Republicans. A lot of people have put in calls to the Hillary Clinton hit list to try and have me taken out, I'm sure, over the years. But you know what I mean? But don't worry. I'm not. I did not kill myself. FYI, if they take me away. Audrey, I saw this article this morning.
Important.
Oh yeah, well, I used to be, right? So when you're running for office, you become an assassination target. But I want to talk to you a little bit more about kind of like the psychosexual zeitgeist here, which is it really has to do with everything that is going on politically right now. And I'm going to rant for just a moment so I can set this up for you, and then I want you to rant. Okay? So here we go, Audrey. So the Democrats are the party of women and the men who are afraid of them. That's a Scott Adams quote, right? The loss of masculinity in American society is evident throughout. And you can see it in the economy, for example, where young men are falling behind. They're not getting advanced degrees. They're not going to college. They're not getting advanced degrees like a lot of women are. They're being excluded from jobs or being pushed aside in favor of diversity, equity, and inclusion standards that include anyone but them. And many of them are choosing to drop out of society and not chase women and not try and get involved with relationships or marriage or have children or things like that. And it's a real problem because strong men build society, build the buildings we're in, and there's something to admire about them. But it appears as if strong masculine men are the enemy of the Democratic Party, which is why when I read articles like the Newsweek story that says the right is obsessed with hot women, I'm kind of like, oh, good. These men are active and healthy sexually. They're interested in women and in normal, healthy, heterosexual relationships. But the left sees that as strange. They see it as weird. They're trying to demonize perfectly healthy, normal relationships between men and women, leading us to be further isolated from one another. Are you seeing this dynamic play out between men and women in society? Lonely men, isolated men, a lack of testosterone, a lack of masculinity as sort of like the I don't know, canary in the coal mine, perhaps, or the cough, the sneeze, the symptom of an illness in American society. How would you respond to all of that? And that's a lot, I understand.
Yeah, I mean, a key word there is demon. Like, I really think there are some demonic elements to this. Like, why would the media or the what we're watching, what we're consuming every day, why would they be pushing for men to not be masculine? Are they trying to I've actually been kind of trying to go deep back in history, and I've noticed that, like, in antiquity, a long time ago, we had a higher access to this higher energy. And I think this whole agenda with demasculizing men and, holding women to this weird standard is like trying to get us further away from that higher energy, that beauty, that
Audrey,
we can get closer to God.
Yeah, that was gonna be my next question, Audrey, is if you wouldn't mind, tell us a little bit about your spiritual journey as of late, because I know that it is something that is, very much at the top of your mind.
Yeah, I mean it just ties into everything. I'm just I'm seeking out this higher energy that I feel that the mainstream media and the powers that be are trying to block off from me and from everybody. And this is how they're doing it. They're disrupting the normal family unit and the natural roles of men and women. And they're sullying what beauty really is. They don't want us in beautiful buildings. They don't want us looking at beautiful women. They don't want us looking at beautiful paintings. Beautiful, they don't want us to be in nature. I mean, that there's all these things that are pushing us away from reaching that higher energy just as a collective, as humans. And I think, I mean, it's, people laugh and that's ridiculous, but there's some demonic elements in that. And I'm still just trying to figure that out. And I see that on the left, and it's just like what y'all were talking about before I came on, just how the left, like, it is so against beauty. Everybody's like purple hair, fat, stinky, whatever you said. Like
Armpit hair, yeah.
that, like, you can see it. You can see if someone's like actually a demon, like they look like a weird lizard demon. And then if somebody is starting to get that demon with like inside them, like they're just a normal person, but they're getting it in them. You can see it in their eyes. You can see the tops of the whites of their eyes. Like it, and they try to gaslight us. Oh no, you can't see what somebody on the inside. You can't judge a book by its cover. Yes, you can. These people look gross. And there's all these Trump hotties walking around looking beautiful. It's like apparent.
That is Audrey Pope, who's joining us live here on the Wake Up America show. We're having her on for the second time. We're having a lot of fun. We're talking about Newsweek's article, How Hot Girls Became the Right's New Obsession. The conservative hot girl isn't a particularly new phenomenon, says Victoria Ken, an associate professor at the University of East Anglia in the UK. It's like that's like one of the most liberal universities in the whole world. Women have been positioned through the lens of the masculinist imagery and conservative populist politics for a very long time, she writes. So I guess the conclusion that we should draw from this is that, are some women grifting off of their looks? Sure. If I was a perfect 10 and had incredible boobs, would I be a lot richer than I am right now? Absolutely. Because there's just something very powerful about the female look. I mean, here's the thing, Audrey. Yeah, exactly. Here's the thing about like men and their motivations. Like everything that men do to some extent is motivated by women in their life, or the aspiration or dreams of women, or hoping to be. They like when we do something amazing, it's because typically we want to oppress a girl. Right. Think about all the beautiful buildings that have been constructed, and think about the man behind them who was inspired by some woman that he wanted to be able to show and drive by his building and say, look what I've built. Like a man who can build a house. I mean, you got to say, a man, that's hot. Exactly. And men know this, and therefore intelligent ones learn how to do things like build houses or build empires or build whatever you have. So if the left wants to destroy society, if the left wants to destroy things that are beautiful, they have to destroy the source of society and the source of things that are beautiful. And the supply lines of that are men who are inspired by beautiful women in their life. And it's not just physical attractiveness, I think, Audrey. Yeah, I mean, the women that I've had in my life, some of the most beautiful were some of the most heartless, cold, calculating, horrible people you might say demonic, if you might define them as such, and then some of the other women who might be more plain or homely or not as, what the conventional wisdom would say is a 10 were 10s in my eyes, because they were so kind and so sweet and so beautiful in so many other ways that are so much more important than just looks alone. But there is something about that visceral, sexual, heterosexual feeling that men have that I think the left is threatened by. I think the left is threatened by masculine men because it represents a challenge to their power. Would you agree, disagree, add to it, subtract? How would you respond to that?
Yeah, I mean, that is the root of why they hate Trump, because he's so masculine. He is not backing down. He's not hiding. He's gotten shot at, like 2 or 3 times now? They're trying to kill him, and he's all out in the open like, bitch, come at me. Like, he's a man.
Yes. Yeah, I think even Mark Zuckerberg, soy boy Mark Zuckerberg, was like, that was a bad, I know, but when he was asked about the Trump assassination, the first one, the attempt, he was like, that's the most badass thing I've ever seen. And you're like, if it must be pretty badass if even Mark Zuckerberg said it was, right? Audrey, we're coming up here on the end of the show, which, I like to give my guests to the greatest extent possible the final word. If there's anything that you think we missed, any points that you wanted to make before we go, or anything you'd like to plug, this is your opportunity before we let you go. You have the floor.
Thanks. I just wanted to remind everybody that I guess that to me, this kind of sums up the whole episode, that it's okay to go with our intuition. It's okay to believe our own eyes. And Candace Owens taught me that. It's okay. That's another way that they're trying to block off our energies. So if you see somebody and you get a feeling that I don't think they're a good person, you can listen to yourself. If you feel if you're on the Democratic side and you feel like there's something nagging at you, do your research. It's okay to learn, and it's okay to be in political limbo, in religious limbo. It's beautiful to be learning and to be on a journey. But don't take too long, because the election's coming up.
No, it's true. No, good point there. Good point. No, it's funny you say that, just because my wife and I were talking about this the other day about trusting our intuition, because we've been having these conversations about parenting and how, it's like, oh, well, what does this say about that? Which doctor says this or which doctor says that? And I'm like, when it comes to these kinds of decisions for our child and for our relationship, on some level, we have to trust our gut. We have to trust our intuition. Right? It's for example, and I said I'd give you the last word, but here I go. For example, when it comes to taking your kids to drag queen story hour, the question of whether or not that's a good idea or a bad idea, my intuition tells me that's a bad idea, right? Is there a scientific study that says that 9 out of 10 kids are not raped at drag queen story hours? No, but I don't need that kind of I don't need that kind of hard data to be able to trust my gut and my intuition about what's a good idea for my kid versus a bad idea for my kid. So I just wanted to double down on what you said, Audrey, and say thank you.
Yes. Real quick, and even with your child sleeping with you, putting them in a crib, I think there's some kind of weird thing with that, trying to separate the child from the mother, when my son slept right here and he's fine. I didn't smother him. There's a lot of go with your intuition.
No, I think a lot of SIDS is actually just unreported liberals killing their kids outside of the womb. But Audrey, thank you for your time today. Demons. Have a good one. We'll talk to you again real soon. Great job, Audrey. We appreciate you very much. Yep. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Have a good one.
So fun.
Hot girls for Donald Trump. What the? Hot girls for Donald Trump. Kamala.
I'm gonna vote for Trump. Trump all the way.
Hot girls for Donald Trump?
Yep. Yes. Hot girls for Donald Trump 2024. Let's do it. Trump. No new wars with Donald Trump. When Kamala Harris was president, if she was going to make this a better place, she would have done it.
Hot women for Trump? Oh, yes. Hot women for Trump.
Trump, 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 Trump. Trump, 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 Trump. And I'm a mom. I'm not with her. To be clear, I am not with her.
Meaning Kamala Harris.
100%.
Hot girls for Donald Trump?
Oh, for sure. That's right. Yes, girl. The tallies look bad. I don't know where to put it.
How many talk shows did Hot Girls for Donald Trump segment and had Hot Girls for Donald Trump on the show, like Camelia Peterson and Audrey Pope? It's the Wake Up America show, only on the 4 Liberty Network. You guys, you got to watch the fun shows. I know that those topics were a little R, rated X, PG-13, all that kind of stuff in the last hour, but I hope you'll forgive me. I do try and keep the Wake Up America shows family friendly as possible, but every once in a while we do venture into that territory. But you know what? It is what it is, baby. It is what it is. And if you don't like it, well then...
Do not come. Do not come.
But I know.
I'm going to come.
Damn right you are. Only on the Wake Up America show. As you exit through the Grift Shop. We've got coffee pods. Coffee pods available at 4libertyshop.com. That's the Grift Shop at the number 4libertyshop.com. 4libertyshop.com on the 4 Liberty Network. Check it out. Founding Flavors Coffee Pods. It's delicious. Franklin's Electric Elixir, available now, delivered to your front door for the low price of $22.99. Founding Flavors Coffee Pods, available exclusively at 4libertyshop.com. So go shopping, guys. Support the 4 Liberty Network. More Hot Girls for Donald Trump. Every box of coffee we sell. Buck's Nasty, first time he's been here today, or at least I haven't seen him yet, says they hate us because they ain't us. It's so true. They hate us because they ain't us? And Brandon Meyer, if you're still here, brother, I hope you have a safe trip out there. Good fishing. Thanks very much for being a part of the Wake Up America show network and the 4 Liberty Network while you're in town and not out on the high seas doing the dangerous fishing so that we can all enjoy delicious seafood. Brandon, have a great day. Be safe, brother, out there on the waves and return. And what shall we do with the drunken sailor? What shall we do with the drunken sailor? What shall we do with the drunken sailor? Early in the morning. We'll see you guys here tomorrow on the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network.
Unlocking the Wake Up America show's bonus content. Your financial contributions make a huge impact in fueling the growth of the Wake Up America show and the 4 Liberty Network. Today, let's look at how the IRS is fining American hostages for taxes they missed while in captivity. Imagine returning home after being unlawfully detained overseas, only to find the IRS has billed you thousands of dollars in unpaid taxes and late fees. That's the unexpected reality for Americans like Evan Gerskovich, Paul Whelan, and Vladimir Kara-Murza. These former hostages faced a slew of financial surprises upon their release from Russian detention, including unexpected tax bills and credit issues stemming from unpaid obligations during their captivity. Washington Post reporter Jason Rezaian experienced a similar ordeal after spending 544 days detained in Iran. I got one of those IRS bills saying, "You owe this much from this year with interest accrued," Rezaian told NPR. His tax penalties exceeded $6,000, highlighting an oversight that few had considered. Currently, between 40 and 60 American nationals are being illegally detained abroad, as reported by NPR. Many will face similar financial penalties upon their return, adding an unnecessary burden to their already difficult circumstances. The IRS maintains that it doesn't have the legal authority to waive tax fees for returning hostages. However, legislative change may be on the horizon. Senator Chris Coons introduced the Stop Tax Penalties on American Hostages Act earlier this year. This bill would mandate the IRS to exempt hostages from tax liability during their period of detainment. It would also allow hostages and their spouses to apply for the removal of tax-related fines, providing much-needed financial relief. If passed, Coons' bill would address a small but significant flaw in the tax system. It's common sense that someone illegally detained abroad can't pay their taxes or even their Netflix subscription on time. In addition to coping with the trauma of being held hostage and the challenges of readjusting to normal life, former detainees shouldn't be burdened with thousands of dollars in fines for taxes they couldn't possibly have paid. Solving this issue would be a logical step in supporting the reintegration of these Americans back into society. It would also recognize the unique and unfair circumstances they endured. The Stop Tax Penalties on American Hostages Act represents a compassionate and practical solution to a problem that's been overlooked for too long. It aims to offer justice and peace of mind to those who've already suffered enough. By passing this bill, Congress can show that it stands with American hostages and recognizes the challenges they face upon their return. It's a necessary adjustment to a robotic tax system that lacks humanity in specific, rare circumstances. The bill has received bipartisan support, reflecting a shared understanding of the need for this change. Lawmakers across the aisle agree that former hostages shouldn't be penalized for circumstances beyond their control. Ultimately, addressing this issue is about fairness and empathy. It's about ensuring that the tax system can respond appropriately to exceptional situations like illegal detainment. Former hostages like Jason Rezaian have already faced unimaginable hardships. Eliminating these unfair tax penalties is a straightforward way to support their recovery and return to normal life. As Congress debates this bill, we can hope for a more just and compassionate response to the financial challenges faced by Americans returning from unlawful detention abroad.
Are you tired of the strange radioactive effects of leftist culture? Do you ever wonder what happened to good old-fashioned American values? Well, fear no more, because there's a new force fighting back against the cultural rot of today. Introducing Culturama, a right-of-center talk show that's taking back the future today. Hosted by none other than blonde bombshell herself, Daniela Pensack. She's not just talking, she's taking culture back. With sharp takes, brilliant guests, and a few surprises along the way. Tune in to the live video podcast twice a week, because the future doesn't have to be weird. It can be Culturama.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian and always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
What is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
The conservative, so-called, is the one that says less government, get off my back, get out of my pocket, and let me have more control of my own destiny.
Do you hate the deep state? Do you reject the Antichrist in all his ways? Do you believe that aliens controlled LBJ to assassinate John F. Kennedy? Did you know that the shot can put chemicals in you that will make you more sensitive to 5G? Do you love America? Do you want more freedom? Do you like smoking hot red-headed libertarians? Then the AP for Liberty shop is for you! Check out all the awesome new merch and have a happy new year! Fight the deep state, reject the Antichrist. Visit AP for Liberty shop and get your patriotic merchandise now, or the deep state wins.